In this video, I would like to talk about phantom smells, namely smells that are not there. A common phantom smell that seems to be experienced by a lot of people is the smell of cigarette smoke or smoke smell, or sometimes cigar. Especially when in their home nobody smokes or they are just staying alone and they are not a smoker. And sometimes this smell gives them headache, kind of allergic reaction or sinus. So normally, aside from cigarette smell, some people also reported smelling things like rotted garbage smell or smell of like rotted fish or rotten animals. And then even they turned their house upside down, they couldn't find the source of it. Some people will smell things like floral or some kind of fragrance, like as if the perfume is being spilled over. It can be a strong smell, or sometimes it's a kind of mild kind of smell, but it's very distinct. Or maybe smells of certain dishes or baking, but then in nearby their area or in their home, nobody was doing any cooking or baking. So these are signs of, this could well be signs of departed people visiting us. And that kind of smell is a distinct representation of how they were when they were alive. For example, maybe the kind of cigarette smell could be that the person was a smoker when he or she was alive. Some people, their grandfather smoked cigar, and when their grandfather passed away, they smell the cigar smell. Or their mother used to bake a lot of cupcakes, and then they smell the cupcake smell. So this could be them visiting. Now there's a story of a lady shared by a lady. What happened was that she kept smelling cigarette smell for a long time, but 24 hours, 7 days a week. She tolerated it, but after about a year of not being able to taste food, it became intolerable. She couldn't take it anymore. She went to see a specialist. This specialist used the state-of-the-art technology. With a CAT scan, he found that she had 11 benign tumors growing at her sinus and at the back of her brain. So this specialist used the kind of like sinus GPS navigation system, right, to navigate at her brain to do the operation to remove all the tumors, nodules, and pops. The surgery cost $500,000 USD. Fortunately, it is covered by insurance, and this kind of surgery, if it's not covered by insurance, or maybe if one don't have such a good insurance, then one may not be able to afford this. But the kicker is, after she had the surgery, not long later, she contracted COVID, and she again lost her sense of taste of food, but she stopped smelling the cigarette smell anymore. So that's why if a person consistently have that and then they develop migraine, it's better to go and have checkup done to rule out any possibility of disease, tumor, or growth. Sometimes it could be a warning sign. But then for most people who have that, who smells that, it is an indicative of a departed person visiting, as I mentioned. So what we should do is that if this happened within our own home, right, our own living territory, I would strongly recommend that when you encounter this, you say prayers. Always say prayers. Develop a habit of saying prayers, praying for protection, for blessings. But there's an additional means the prayers is based on your faith. But there's an additional element that I would like to introduce, which is the element of transferring of merits. This is quite unique only in Buddhism, but I find that it helps a lot to eliminate problems that we have. So, for example, what you do is that you dedicate after saying your prayers, or you think of the good things you've done as well. Like if let's say you do voluntary work, you help other people, you help the homeless, you are doing a cause that help benefit other people. The goodness, the energy of the goodness you do, together with the prayer, you dedicate it to the person. And then sometimes you dedicate it to the person, and you wish the person be well and happy. Of course, to do that, you really have to be doing good things. Shouldn't be having a lot of bad thoughts or a lot of unwholesome deeds. Whatever, if we live our life, our conscience is clear, right? These things have energy and it can protect, and it's also to help. Because sometimes when they come back, right, they are here, they are also asking for help. Especially if you keep consistently smell that kind of smell. So the dedication of merits of the energy of our goodness, and we dedicate and share with other beings, is going to help them. I find this to be very beneficial. Like for example, in Thailand, it is very common. What they'll do is that they will actually, the Thai people, when the monks will go for amsang every day, like before dawn, right? And the Thai people will buy some packets of food, or sometimes they will prepare this packet, the food, they will pack it nicely, and then they will put in the monk's alms bowl. So when it is actually, they are helping to, it's a kind of requisite to provide for the monks. The monks will do the spiritual practice, and then they don't have time to do the spiritual practice, but they will actually do the offering. So when the monks recite they will recite the standard transferring of merits chant. Then at the recital, the donors, the person will actually make an aspiration and wish to transfer merit, like to their departed beings, to their family, etc. So that's why I have to be very honest, in Thailand, because this culture has been carried out for a long time, right, and is still being actively done till today, we don't see a lot of serious manifestation of illness. Because every time when there are a lot of illness, that elders know that the manifestation is not of physical nature, it's a spiritual nature. There are certain signs and symptoms. So normally they do a lot of this kind of religious offering, or they themselves will go and do spiritual practice themselves, which of course is more effective. So that's why when I read, when I start joining forums, right, related to illness, I'm quite shocked, because the way the illness manifests in other like developed country is much more severe and serious compared to in here or the environment that I'm around with. Because we know all this, and we kind of like identify there's a spiritual cause, but this is just to share. Now back to the fragrant side. So if we, even in our own, if we're practicing at home, and you have a habit of saying prayers, you can actually, if let's say you have a certain, like I know of a Catholic friend, her mother would actually do she has a rosary beads, and then she would do a lot of recitals daily. So the vibe in her room is very, very different. When people go and, like spiritual people go and see, right, the room that she's in, the vibe is, the vibration, the energy is very much different compared to the rest of the house, because she used to stay there and she do a lot of prayers. So there is a difference. So we can also dedicate the power of prayers to help other beings. This is within our home. Now I would like to address what happens if you smell things, phantom smell, when you're outside. When you're walking, especially when you're walking, either in the group or alone at night. This is something many people, even I myself, have personally experienced a number of times. And in Asia, across the different cultures, we have been taught that if you are walking at night or past any deserted place, like in a very cloudy day, right, like when it rain or whatever, like in that kind of very dark, cloudy day or at night, and you suddenly smell like certain distinct smell like garbage, rotten flesh smell or garbage smell, or even something fragrant like jasmine, very strong jasmine flower smell. These are all considered no good signs. So what we'll do is that we have been taught, as even from children, when you smell anything, when you're walking and outside and you smell anything, don't say anything. Just keep quiet and walk. So, and say prayers. There will be, of course, like sometimes when you walk in a group, there will be one or two ignorant people. Oh, what's the smell? Because most of the time there will be more than one person smelling it. And then everybody will be like, shh, don't say anything like that. Sometimes if they're walking with their parents and they say that the parents will pinch them or do something to ask them to keep quiet. And then they will leave the area. Why is that so? Because if you make a comment, right, sometimes we believe that in the olden custom is passed down and say that the thing will follow us home. So normally we keep quiet. And there have been many stories told when I was growing up that they have things that follow home. Because after that the child start to fall sick and then they will go and see a doctor having very high fever, and the doctor couldn't do anything to help. Sometimes the child suffer the brain damage from the fever, but most of the time the parents would aside from giving the child medication and all this, they will also go and seek advice from their spiritual healer from their own faith. And most of the time with a bit of spiritual work, right, the child will just recover like miraculously. So this kind of thing happened, and I heard a lot of these stories across the different culture that I grew up in. So we are familiar with this. We normally don't say anything. The rotten flesh garbage smell is not very good beings, not very wholesome. They are not in a very wholesome state. If it happens in our own home and we have turned our house upside down, checked the roof, nothing, no dead rats or rotten animals or anything, then please start reciting prayers. This is my suggestion. But if you're outside, that's the same thing as well, to recite prayer. The jasmine smell is also no good outside, because in our culture, in our country, and also Malaysia and Singapore, is known as sometimes it's known as presence of a Pontianak. Pontianak is quite a vindictive female spirit, known in the Eastern culture, quite scary one. Very vindictive female spirit. So normally when that happens, we will say prayers as well, because sometimes there are cases of men, right? They walk and then they smell the jasmine, then they see a beautiful woman, a very beautiful woman, and then they make a comment, and then she follow him home, and then the man fall sick, and because she want to take him away, and he will fall very seriously sick. So if let's say he's staying with the parents will normally know and do something. This also I've heard stories, real stories of people who experienced this when I was growing up as well. So these are something that we take caution. And I myself, when I remember when I was driving one night also, I also had, I passed through a certain area. I just came back from visiting my best friend's home. I was driving past. And then I passed a housing estate. It's an old kind of highway. And then suddenly there was a distinct smell of garbage that hit my car. My car is... all the windows are closed. My car is air conditioned. So I don't know where the distinct smell come from, because it cover like quite a distance. After I feel the hair of the back of my head, neck raising, I feel chill down my spine. And something I really didn't dare to look at the rearview mirror. I just sensed there's a presence seated at the back seat. This is also something that have been experienced by people who drive past. There's a well-haunted highway in Malaysia. That one I'll go into it shortly. But based on this one, when I experienced this, right, I felt the hair of my head raising up. What I did is that I recited my Buddhist prayer, but not in the way that is a banishing or scolding or anything. No, because sometimes we are not that strong enough to fight this kind of. I don't advise using all this banishing, all this casting away kind of like words. Just approach it from a compassionate point of view. I actually do the recital, and then after from there, I think of the good things I've done. And through the power of my prayers and the good things I've done, the merits I dedicate to them. So the energy is different. The dedicate and wish them well. And then with that, right, the smell went off. So this is how I experience this. And of course, a few other times also when I'm walking at night, I also smell it. I also say the prayer. You have to do it. That's why I always advise you have to do it frequently. Means every day, just put aside when you start off maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then slowly you can see if you want to go longer to do your prayer based on any faith you have. Is to develop a habit of doing. Because when you don't have the habit, right, when you encounter situation like this and when you start saying prayer, there's no power. Why there's no power? Because you don't have faith, you don't believe in it. You're just saying. The more you say, the more scared you become. Because when there's no power, right, they can other being can also scare you more because you basically don't have the faith and belief. But if you once you're used to saying the prayer, it will come to you automatically when you are afraid, right? The prayers, the cumulative, when you're saying and you're doing your practice, you may not feel anything. But when you're being in any life-threatening situation, the prayer will arise in your heart and will come and rescue. I have experienced this before. This is really, I share sincerely from my heart. Just dedicate a bit of time, commit to ourselves. We are like, when we're free, we always surf the net and see YouTube and Facebook and things like that, Instagram, right? Just take out a bit of the time and then just dedicate it to do a prayer every day at the same time, just based on your faith. Even if you don't have prayer, you can do like what my friend did, mantra, some kind of positive mantra, but the kind of mantra that actually help other people. I will put the mantra down there, hupo. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that word, but it's got to do with I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, the kind of mantra. My friend had done it. My friend was quite sick, right? She recited this mantra, right? She find that in her heart, she start to be able to forgive people who have around her, and as well as the white changes, and she was healed. She had actually chronic kidney disease, and because of this kind of practices, right? It helps to heal her. So after 10 years, she recovered from the illness. I mean, it's under control. That's why I find that it works. Okay. Now back to the story where I was telling about the highway, the Malaysian highway called the Karak Highway, which is well known for haunting, and there are many cases of people who driven past that area. Karak Highway is a highway that was built to connect the Kuala Lumpur to the east coast, to Pahang, Terengganu, and Kelantan. So the area where they cut through Genting Highlands, that area around Genting Highlands area, going up to Genting Highlands and around the area is very notoriously known to be haunted. You just Google Karak Highway and you see, and you look at the image, a lot of massive accidents, a lot of buses carrying people that have actually met with accidents. Very notorious highway. So there are many cases also with people who actually driven past certain areas in that highway itself, and they start having phantom smell. phantom smell of sometimes jasmine or rotting garbage. And some of them, they look at the rearview mirror, there was something seated behind them. There was this guy, he was smoking, right? He mentioned he was smoking. He was driving at night and he was smoking. So when he passed the tunnel, then he felt something like a presence, and the hair of his head raises, and then the kind of smell, and then he looked at the bed and he really saw something. So he recited prayer, because for Muslim they pray 5 times a day, so they have the habit of doing the prayer. So when they meet situation like this, he automatically recited prayer and he had faith. So after a while, the thing disappeared. So that's how there is a lot of this kind of story, but a lot of these stories are available in the Malay language. However, you can look up and you can read about it, because the highway is quite notorious. But it taught us that when we experience phantom smell or this out, especially outside, we don't make a comment. We say our prayer, because when you get that kind of smell, sometimes your vibe, your aura may not be strong, your life force energy may not be strong, so you need protection. That's why I always suggest to say that to have a habit to develop saying prayers. It really, really can help to protect you. So this is my sharing for today. Some of the practices may not be familiar with if you are from the West or what you do. Just give it a try, keep it an open mind. Hopefully it will help you to, hopefully when you keep smelling that kind of smell and it gives you a lot of headache and there's nothing you can do about it, then get into a habit of saying prayers and every time you say, and also to dedicate the goodness of what you have done towards when at the end of the prayer or when you're experiencing that smell, and see if the situation will improve. Okay, take care.